time for question of the week. Thanks for stopping by for question of the week. Question of the week.
So I guess we can kick these shenanigans off.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So do you want to give a quick kind of rundown of what question of the week is?
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
What is it supposed to be? What could it be?
Yeah. So, I mean, ideally going forward, like, and this week, just because we've, just started this thing, like, ideally we'll get actual questions from actual people and work those in. But it's more to answer the questions that we can't, because within the context of the podcast itself, you and I are essentially playing characters, and so we can't break the fourth wall. Otherwise, we'd be doing that every 30 seconds. So it's a good opportunity to just kind of do something a little more extemporaneous and just kind of guide people through what we're thinking on various decisions we make within universe.
Yeah, we can't quite Jim Halpert our way into this.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, there won't be any knowing looks at the camera, and we don't really have that option.
No.
We can nudge and wink as much as we want, and we will, just because there's so many things within the FIFA world that are just patently ridiculous. But
so many. Yeah,
it's hard when you're bound by the medium. And by, like I said, playing a character.
Yeah. That makes sense. That sounds good. It'll be fun.
Yeah, and it's also a chance for us to interact with all 6 or 7 people that listen to this every week. Yes. So for them to have a little bit of ownership of the show as well.
Hey, we have 20.
Yeah, we're averaging 30. So hopefully that goes up.
We will take that.
Yeah.
So let's see, what started all of this just madness?
I don't. It was honestly.
How was this idea birthed?
Lots of boredom during quarantine, I think, would probably be the best answer to that. Because I mean, as long as you and I have known each other, which is years at this point, and FIFA has always been a part of that, and I think you and I are similar in that. We play FIFA because it's fun, but also it's fun to create universes and tell stories within the game. And so finally I just had a realization that, and there's a lot of YouTube content available in this department already, about roads to glory, and people will take over Macclesfield Town and get them all the way up to the Champions League, and I think that's amazing. I thought it was an interesting opportunity to fill a space in podcast world, just because FIFA is a visual medium, but we could just take the story itself out and tell it that way. And I just thought it would be really funny if we acted like we took it really seriously. If we just played it completely straight and didn't lean into the fact that it's a video game. No, we're taking this super seriously.
There are hundreds and thousands of journalists covering us, and we're the big money takeover, and it's all such a beautiful circus.
And you and I are big Premier League fans, so we see this, we see that circus play out every week in real time, and just being able to satirize that, I think, is really fun, and take some of the ridiculousness of all of the pomp and circumstance that surrounds the Premier League, and make fun of it a little bit, and in a loving way. This is all very something that we care about very deeply, probably a little too much, but it's still fun to poke fun at some of the inconsistencies.
Yeah, sometimes it's the only way to, I don't know, deal with your club being 9th in the table, worst place in my entire lifetime.
Yeah, so I feel like we should just go ahead and address this. David, you are an actual Arsenal fan. You're the real deal.
So the funny thing is, originally I was a hardcore bandwagoner. Because I hopped on, basically the first season I watched was the final season at the Emirates,
Right.
which was 05,
Or
06.
Highbury. Yeah.
Yeah. Final season at Highbury.
Yeah.
And we had those horrible burgundy jerseys that I think a lot of people liked, but I kind of hot take did not.
Yeah.
But that's where it all started. First game I watched was this. I forget who we were playing, but Robin van Persie scored 2 goals in a late substitute appearance.
Yeah.
And I was hooked ever since then. So yeah, the rest is history. And now the last decade has just been a cycle of hope, a few good things, then a few bad things, and then a point where you don't think it's going to get any worse or could get any worse, and then it does. And then it just cycles back around, and it's hope.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
With a few FA Cup wins.
Going back to the burgundy jersey, I am not a fan of those jerseys either. Like, I think Arsenal has a really good red. Like, why would you venture away from that red? It's just good color scheme. Like, you're not quite fire engine red, about the same color as these curtains back here. And then dark blue and white. It's just gorgeous. Why would you deviate from that? But I know it particularly at the end of that era, the players wearing those bad jerseys were really good.
Yes.
So that's how it happens sometimes. Like, you're not paying attention, and then when you start paying attention, for whatever reason, players on a specific team attract you, and then you're hooked. I get that.
Yeah.
So, and if your fandom goes back 15 years, I don't think we can fully throw you in the bandwagon category. Like, if you're a 2017 Man City fan, like, like we're going to chuck you in there. Or Liverpool now, like, probably not selected with a whole lot of discretion, not very discriminatory with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just wanted to get that out of the way. I'm not an Arsenal fan, which I'm sure we'll cover at a later date. But yeah, and I guess that bleeds into the question of why did we choose Arsenal to do this career mode with. And I want to toss that to you.
Yeah. So I myself, after we established the idea, because we established the idea first, I think. But you may have presented it to me with Arsenal in mind, or even in name when you when you asked me. But I was pretty open to whatever you had in mind. But I always gravitate towards England, in terms of who I start my career modes with. But lately I've kind of been deviating from that because I've gotten kind of burned out on doing the whole Macclesfield Town deal.
Yeah, you can only run that back so many times, and there's only so many fun Premier League. Like mine, a big one for me is Everton. Like, every single FIFA that comes out, like, I'm gonna have one career mode with Everton because they're just on that fringe of, like, they have enough money where it's not just gonna be like pulling your eyeballs out of your sockets, but it's also like you don't feel quite as guilty, if you go in Manchester United your first week, like, that's going to be a very easy career mode. You want a little bit of difficulty and a little bit of that, like bringing up the little guy into the upper echelons of world football.
Yeah, so naturally we decided to bring up the little guy and went with Arsenal. Cries.
Yeah. Mid-table side Arsenal. Yeah, like I remember talking to you about this initially, and you were like, "Are you sure?" Well, yeah, because Arsenal, to me, the opportunity to tell a good story was there. Because that's always what I wanted to prioritize with this was telling something that would be entertaining. And like, as far as Arsenal goes, there's no more entertaining team for a number of reasons, not just because of the football that they play. We're not in the same way that Man City are entertaining. But even the 10-minute stretch in the game against Tottenham, you had Lacazette just like breaking the goal down, and then not even a few possessions later, you had Kolasinac passing it back to David Luiz and completely missing, which led to the Sun goal. So it's, whenever you watch an Arsenal match, especially in this particular area, like it's going to be fun, and probably not for the reasons that you want them to be, but
for the neutral.
Yes, for the neutral, it's outstanding. And so I think that was really the mindset behind it. And I also just love youth players, and Arsenal at the moment have just this amazing core of young guys, even Nketiah, Reece Nelson, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, that we could grow, because that's part of the career mode thing, is taking young guys and turn them into superstars, and then you feel that sense of ownership of like, I helped these guys get where they are. So yeah, there was that, and also enough money to where it wouldn't be just agony every transfer window we went through and trying to figure out the loan thing or scraping together enough money to make one signing.
Sunderland till I die our way up to the Premier League.
Yeah, no, that would be awful. Like, so Sunderland till I die is amazing, but it's awful to watch. It just tears your emotions apart. So yeah, didn't want to put everybody through that, because especially during the quarantine times, we can only bear so much genuine human sadness. So
I laughed and I cried. It's a genuine experience when I'm watching an Arsenal game. It's just like, it's just utter like I can't even describe the kinship I feel with the club when I watch, more so when I watched, us play under Wenger. But, for the last few weeks, we've kind of seen at least some kind of identity, maybe not, playing that beautiful, beautiful soccer. But like, there's also the other side of the coin where you see us making such boneheaded mistakes and you just want to punch something. But this has turned into a therapy session for me as an Arsenal fan, but that's it's a very real thing. And I came in on the tail end of the good old days, so I mean I kind of have a taste for the good old days, but I was like a teenager, so I don't remember a ton of that.
And I think part of what makes this fun, like this FIFA experience, is like just the difference between the storylines IRL and like how things are developing within our little universe. And part of that's just like how FIFA works. But like in real life, you have Rob Holding stepping up for the last couple of weeks and being one of the genuine bright spots, like of specifically Arsenal's defense. But then like you get into FIFA, and like that emotional attachment to somebody like Rob Holding, Granit Xhaka, like it's realistically, and this was part of the struggle in our first episode, which is like, who do we keep and who do we get rid of? Because in real life you have these incredible attachments to these players. You don't want to just turn them loose for pennies, just because they're not going to get you where you want to go. But in FIFA, it's all numbers, baby. You gotta
put your logic hat on, and make those calls with your brain.
So I want to take a little step back and just introduce ourselves first, and just kind of get everybody on the same page with us. It's not that exciting, but if you're gonna listen to 4 or 5 hours worth of us talking, you should probably at least have some kind of basis for who the heck we are.
I'll you go first on that, because I want to see what you do.
Okay, that works. I am Will Shingleton. I am one of the producers, writers, and editors of Career Mode Theater, and my actual job is actually very similar to this job. I'm a podcast producer and just general content creator, and Dave and I have known each other since we were in college together, and have just FIFA has always been a part of that. So Yeah, like I said, this isn't terribly dissimilar to what I do every day. So it's just a lot sillier. And, we get to say whatever we want in this case.
Yeah. And on the other hand, I'm David Coggin, and I don't do this on a daily basis unless we're talking about playing FIFA, in which
Right.
I probably do. But this is the first time I've ever done anything even close to a podcast, anything even close to like an audio content creation. I do a little bit of photography on the side, but it's just amateur stuff. But and my day job is a traffic engineer, so nothing to do with
Yeah.
not really the creative type, but I've kind of leaned that direction a little bit the last few years, and so I've enjoyed a lot of it that I did. So yeah. And then as far as my FIFA history,
Right.
oh dear. So I got my first Xbox 360 in 2007. So FIFA 07 was my first year of FIFA.
Always remember your first.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was the first year that they had the arena, where you could do all the skill moves and hone your craft, your shooting, and all those ridiculous things. But my first career mode was with Lyon, which was, I'd say it went pretty poorly. But again, first try.
Yeah. And so let's see, 07 Lyon, that would have been right in the middle of their title streak. And so
they had just
really good.
They had just won like 7 in a row, I think, something like that. I want to say Jeremy Toulalon was playing for them. Juninho. Let's see, who else? God, I'm blanking now. Who their strikers were at that. I'm gonna have to look it up because it's gonna bother me. 1 second.
Yeah, those were two of the bigger players. I know that Lloris would not be in the picture for another few years at least.
Right.
But
yeah, okay. Almost got the squad pulled up. Okay. Oh, oh, this is gonna be good. I won. Kim Kallstrom was on the squad.
Right.
The famous. I only played in the FA Cup for Arsenal, even though I was there for FA Cup final for Arsenal, even though I was there for 4 months. Brought him with a broken back, and that pretty much defied everything. But yeah, let's see, Karim Benzema was on that squad, young baby Benzema. Fabio Grosso, the World Cup star for Italy, and yeah, just a lot of basically the best of the French players that couldn't go anywhere else at that point. But I don't know. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then after that, I started going the direction of like building the tiny clubs in England, because it was the only league with 4 divisions for a long time. It still is, but now Germany has 3, and you can kind of build up out of that one, which has been my most recent solo project.
Yeah, so tell the people about Ingolstadt and how far you've gotten.
Die Schanzer. I hope I hope my accent isn't too revealing of where I'm from.
I don't think we have any German fans yet.
Yeah,
but they're coming.
Yeah, that's another aside. Is it's probably an upset to find out where we are from.
Yeah.
But anyways,
we'll leave that for later.
Yeah, we're doing all this. It might ruin our credibility. But not that we had any to start with. But anyways, yeah. So Ingolstadt. So I decided I wanted to do a classic RTG Road to Glory with a German squad, and I just went through like I usually do, and whose jerseys do I like, and what club name can I live with for Lord knows how many seasons. And so I tried to be slightly realistic, but that always just kind of goes out the window when you get one or two easy transfers and then you're off and running.
You just get the taste, and you just gotta have more.
Yeah, it's just how it goes, and then you get the youth academy going, and it just, before you know it, you created a machine. But this is really the first time that I've challenged myself in terms of like difficulty. Because I'm no all-star FIFA player at all by any stretch. I've just played for a long time. But this is the first time I've really been like, all right, I'm gonna go like I'm gonna let myself lose a lot here and see if I get canned. But I ended up like moving up to like a higher difficulty moving up through 2 or 3 difficulties the first season, like probably 2 higher than I usually play at, and like ended up winning a good bit. And then like I think by the 3rd or 4th season, the first season in the Bundesliga was real tough. Finished low to mid table, and basically was just trying not to get relegated. But yeah, it's been a nice project, and I think 2025, 2026, I finally edged to Bayern Munich to win the championship. But I know what it's like to play in Germany now as another club, because I went unbeaten last season and had to pip them in the last 2 weeks because they lost twice, and it was to me. So, man, I feel sorry for everyone else, like all the other clubs in Germany. I mean, it seems obvious, but I really feel that now.
Yeah, and it's the same way in FIFA. It is in real life, and they just keep adding big pieces that just sign Sane. So, great job, EA developers. You did it. You can't beat Bayern. As far as my FIFA journey, it actually starts. I think you might be surprised by this. It actually starts in like 2003. I had FIFA 2003 on the GameCube, which was a great game. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And I liked Liverpool at that time because that was literally the only, like, I liked the Beatles a lot, and I knew that they were from Liverpool. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'm in Liverpool. And I knew who David Beckham was. And this was right after he had transferred from Manchester United to Real Madrid. So naturally, I was like, the 2 things I know about soccer, I'm just going to bring them together. So my first order of business was to throw all of my transfer budget at Real Madrid to bring David Beckham to Liverpool to play with Michael Owen. I realize now that would be blasphemous. Like, people would riot in the streets of both cities, Manchester and Liverpool. But I thought it was super cool. I also, you'll get a kick out of this, turned offside off because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like I said, didn't know anything about soccer. So, and you can also, that was the first game and possibly the last. I don't know how long they did this. But you could do off the ball controls. So if you hit Z, you could control somebody else. And so what I would do was I would get Beckham way back, and then I would get Michael Owen, who was really quick, and just run him up to the goal. And then no matter where their center backs were, I would just, lob it over the top, and Michael Owen would put in the goals. I win 6-0. It was great. I was like, I'm the greatest FIFA player of all time. And then fast forward like 7 or 8 years to being in high school, and credit to FIFA, I think this is the story for a lot of people in this country. I started playing like FIFA 10, I would say. I think Frank Lampard was on the cover of that.
So I remember around that time, Klopp was at Dortmund, and like I remember watching. It was one of the first years that they had the Champions League on big American television, and I was like, I don't know who the heck these guys are. And they had some highlight show on Fox, and they were like, yeah, Champions League darling Dortmund, and like they showed the lineup, and it was like Lewandowski and Royce and Mario Götze and Piszczek and all these guys that we know now are like, at that point they were one of the best teams in the world. So I was like, I don't know. So playing FIFA really like got me from point A of like, I'm interested in soccer, but I don't know who these people are, to point B where I could experience them in the game, and a large part through career mode, to where I could understand who the people were. So I think probably around FIFA 13 was when I started really heavily going into career mode. This would be at the point where we were in college together.
Yeah.
And at that point, you will also be very interested to know I played as Arsenal pretty frequently. That was before I had decided which team I was going to support. And I was like, Arsenal's cool. Like they're in that, and this is why a lot of people in this country pick them, is that they're sort of in that tweener zone where you're like, they're very good, but they're not like, you're not picking Man City. Like it's sort of a guiltless route. And that was my logic picking them. So there was one pretty early career mode I did where I bought Julian Draxler because he was the big young career mode stud. I was always like 3 or 4, and Julian Draxler was like the dude from Schalke. And so bought him, and then that was also when they started wheeling out youth academies, so you could draft a guy into your academy, raise him up. I don't know if training was a thing yet, but like you could play him and just wait, and he would eventually get really good.
Yeah, probably. I think that's the last thing they changed in career mode. Anyways,
Draxler. I bought Lucas Moura, which in hindsight was sort of ahead of my time. Those were my wings, and then I had this. I don't know if he was a youth academy product or he was a Drogba regen. But I had this like 6'2" Ivorian tank of a striker that literally could not be stopped. Like he was so good.
Yeah.
And you got to that point in career mode, like you're 5 or 6 years in, especially if you start with a big team, like you look across your squad and you're like, I have all this money, but I literally can't buy anybody better than the team that I have currently. So that was a big moment for me, FIFA 13-ish. And from there, it just, and I think you have the same experience as well. Like even the very little changes from FIFA to FIFA, which is part of the frustration of people like you and I, is like just keep buying it. Like you keep
here's the part where we have the guy buying a shirt.
Yeah.
The guy receiving the same shirt that he's wearing.
Yeah. That's and so little changes in between it, but for me it's worth it, especially career mode wise, just because they have the updates of, Marcus Rashford doesn't exist, and then Marcus Rashford exists, and he's one of the best players you can buy in the game. Ansu Fati probably this year would be the example of that.
And he's the literal model of the entire narrative of a new game mode.
Yeah, which I mean, that's actually a good thing to talk about here, because
the journey
is kind of similar to what we're going for here, of like a narrative within FIFA. I personally, I thought the journey was a little melodramatic. I didn't love playing it, but sort of bringing that theatrical element to it. I don't think FIFA, which is a sports game, those things are inherently antithetical. Like it's fun to add in real life type storytelling to something that you mostly just play for fun.
And at the end of the day, it's just a decision tree, and and we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
In this respect, so the journey experience was I played it a few times, and I was like, this is different. This is fun because it's different. But then one day it glitched out and quit, and I just decided to never play it again because I just didn't care that much. But just went back to career mode.
And it was also you talk about Rashford being the model for it. Like Rashford's actual story is so much better than the one that they concocted for the journey. He's legitimately an incredible person. But that was kind of, and I did the same thing. Played the journey for a little while, but eventually, just can't quit career mode. No matter how little attention they pay to it from year to year.
I'll never quit you, career mode.
No, I can't stop.